I'm Chris Piercy. We're here at Advanced RV at the production department today in the Metris line, and we're talking about aftermarket curtains. These are designed with gray on the inside of the van, black on the outside. So if you take the kids to soccer practice and they need a place to change and they need privacy, these curtains are a nice kit for that. We're working on different accessories so that this basically can be the weekend camper's dream. We have some extruded aluminum tracks that are very nice and cleanly designed. They are pre-drilled and pre-bent to fit each window. I've taken the liberty to count the amount of parts ahead of time. For 5 windows we have 10 tracks and 10 curtains, as well as the number of snaps and screws, which is always a good idea when you're self-installing a kit. Have a close look at this extruded aluminum. If you note the shape of the track, it has a funny shaped front. That's the portion of the track that you face inside the van. I like to use some seam tape when I'm installing, and what I'll do is I'll take a small piece of seam tape and I'll put it on the end of the track and stick it. I'll take another piece to the other end and I'll stick it. This will enable me to place the track where I like and then screw it in while I have my free helper holding it. I'm just going to peel back a short tab on the seam tape on each piece, and I'm going to face that toward the inside of the van. So now I'm going to place the track where I like it. This track has to be placed equal distance from the lock button and the window. Once I get the track where I like it, we'll remove this small tab of seam tape paper and we will stick that down. And if we can get that to hold that for me for a second, then because we're going to screw this into plastic, it's not required to pre-drill, because you do not want your holes to be stripped out. I'm going to use a small fine screw, and I'm going to use a screw gun with the #1 tip. It's very small. You might want to use your clutch for this unless you have a good steady finger and you can stop your gun, because you don't want to over tighten these when you're going into plastic. I'm going to take the screw and stick it right onto the tip of the #1 Phillips bit. You can use a magnetic as well. It will help you in holding the screw in place. I'm simply going to screw the first screw in, and that will hold the track. And I'm going to check for balance and make sure it's equal. I have a pretty good eye, so I eyeball mostly anything that's a 1/4 or 1/2 inch, unless you're going to take a tape measure to it. And then I'm just going to simply finish installing the track, except I'm going to leave the ends off, because when I go to install the curtain, I might want to lift this slightly. So that makes it a little easier, and then I can come back and install the remaining screws when I install the end caps. After installing your bottom track, you're going to do the same with the upper track. You can put a couple of coatings of seam tape there, and it will hold it for you in place while you're screwing it on. So once you've installed your bottom and your top track, then we'll move on to the next window and install the curtain. Okay, now that we've installed all of our extruded aluminum tracks in place, I've taken the liberty to pre-assemble this window for you. What you're going to do is you're going to take these, there's a little tiny retaining clip hidden in the bottom of this curtain. I've taken the liberty to add it to the top and put it in place, and what I'm going to do to keep it from coming off the track, instead of installing my end cap right now, I'm just going to put this clamp in place, and that's going to hold this so that as I'm tugging on it, it doesn't pull away. So I'm basically going to feed this little clip into this track singly, one at a time, carefully. They're sticking out. I'm going to slide these each onto the little track. I found that if you stick your finger behind it, it will allow you to get it freed up from the fabric. And it takes a little bit of patience, but it's very simple and easy to do. It's just a little bit time consuming, and that's what takes the time. This kit, for a novice do-it-yourselfer, this kit can be installed complete in 3 to 4 hours at the max. For a professional, in 2 to 3 hours with no problem. As you see, I am just manipulating these little cars into this track one at a time. They are pre-sewn into the curtain. It's rather clever, and it makes for a very nice clean look when we're finished. Okay, once we've installed the cars onto the extruded aluminum, we can remove our trusty clamp. And then what we're going to do is we're going to install some end caps on the end. That will retain the curtain from sliding off the track. These are simply left and right. And if you look at them, the profile, they are left and right. So you have a mirror image clip. One will be for the top and one will be for the bottom. The trick is that you need a little tiny helper like a flat blade screwdriver. And you're going to want to reach in there and lift that track slightly with that screwdriver. And then you're going to push that retaining clip into the end of the extruded aluminum and then release your screwdriver, and it will hold it in place for you. You're going to do the same on the top. Flex that track a little bit, and we're going to manipulate that little end cap into that opening, and then we're going to release it. You want to drill your hole through the aluminum at the end cap about 1/8 of an inch. That way it doesn't get hung up on your threads. That can cause you to bend your track or damage your plastic on your door. I've taken the liberty of pre-drilling the end cap holes so that we can screw into the aluminum extrusion into the plastic. Basically, I'm just going to reach up in here carefully and slowly screw each of these screws through the retainer and through the extruded aluminum. Once you've done that, then the only thing left is to install the snaps at each side. We'll do one side and then we'll do the finish on that. It's pretty simple. I like to use a white chalk pencil. This is basically known as a spit pencil. It'll remove just by putting a little dampness on your finger. I like to pull the curtain over to where it goes and put the reflection over and mark the center of the snap with my chalk. As you see, I'm holding this one while I pull that one. That way I ensure that it won't pull off the snap. Once I've marked the location, then I basically want to go to the center line of where the extruded aluminum is and put a mark right where I'm going to put my retaining snap. It's pretty simple. That's going to be the location for each of my snaps. These are included in the kit. I have the 2 snaps here in my hand. I'm going to take 2 of my small, fine #1 Phillips screws, and I'll take my #1 Phillips bit. You want to be sure you take your time, because if your screw gun jumps off, it could poke a hole in your finger or damage the plastic on the window. Basically, I'm going real slow so I don't strip my plastic. That's why I don't pre-drill, because if you pre-drill, you could strip the plastic and the screws and snaps will not stay in place. Go to my location slowly and stop. And we're just going to remove the little bit of chalk that we put into place and snap our curtain into place. Now we have a tie back. They can be used with the snaps in place like this, and then you simply turn it around to the back so it has a neat look. At that time you can remove your tag, which tells you the location of each curtain and each track. It's a very simple system. The curtains can also be stowed without the snaps to have that look. It's a real simple. If you want to get some privacy, in order to keep this and not lose it, the simple thing to do is to snap it back together and snap it right into this location. So each curtain will have its little tie snapped right in, and you won't lose each one. Then you simply close the curtains and voila. That's a wrap.